VOD people at home, because I'm sure nobody's watching quite yet. Hello, nice to meet you all. My name's Connor Azzarello. Um, and we're going to be working on the first day of the advent of code. I will be completely honest, this is something I have never done before, but I'm a big leet coder, and worked on a couple of Google Kickstarts, never placed very well, but I have a decent amount, I would say, amount of experience doing these coding competition type things. Um, so hello to any viewers if they are here. But yeah, mostly here for the VODs, for people at my company to see and just to practice streaming. I'm using my company's account. We're Oteemo Inc., DevOps, general tech consulting company, based out of Reston, Virginia, near Washington, D.C. I'm a consultant, work on DevOps type stuff, lots of automation, lots of containers, Kubernetes. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. And yeah, welcome to the stream. General itinerary for today. We have about, as you see, 24 minutes until the problem is released for the first day. A couple of things to get out of the way. I'm going to be writing in Python today. Probably my most experienced language, but I'm also somewhat out of practice. Been writing a lot more config files recently than I have been writing true programs. But yeah, it's probably going to be pretty rough today. I don't think I'm going to get a best time by any means. I've only practiced on one. Like I said, I've never done this, specifically Advent of Code before. But one moment. Some weird stuff's happening. My tablet just started making noise. Yeah, sorry about that. Very, very strange. Yeah, so I'm gonna be writing in Python. I'm gonna spend the next 23 minutes probably practicing another problem. I've only done the one, or the first problem from last year's. It took me under 10 minutes. The solution's here. 13 lines of code in 10 minutes isn't the best thing by any means, but as you see here with my other browser window, I had to look up a lot of stuff that probably should be easy. So I'm kind of hoping the first problem at least reads in a file, line by line, so at least I got something to work off of as a boilerplate. But we'll see. Yeah, if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. You guys are here. You can see yourself if you'd like. But yeah, this could be really rough. But yeah, I'm planning to spend 30 minutes to an hour on the solution if necessary. Hopefully it goes faster than that. My plan is from the beginning, I'm probably going to try to solve it with minimal commentary, just so I can get a decent time. Reminds me, I should probably sign in. But yeah, I should do this off stream, shouldn't I? Just in case. Being weird. Not the biggest fan of Macs as a Linux user myself, but better than Windows, right? Hopefully my father's not watching. I'm really bad at multitasking, so yeah, the commentary on while I'm trying to solve the problem is probably not going to be super great. I'm just trying to type in a password to sign into this thing, and I'm doing pretty poorly talking at the same time. Damn, I got the wrong password. Oh. But yeah, so I'm gonna solve it first, minimal commentary, and then after that, if there's time, I don't want to be up too late. I'm on Pacific time, So it's like gonna start at 9 o'clock here. But I'm kind of an old man for a 22-year-old, so I go to bed kind of early. So I'd love to be in bed. But yeah, I'll talk through my solution a little bit. I want this to be educational. Hopefully, I can explain how I approached my different solutions and stuff. What my thought process was around how I approach things, and something that I think's really useful in terms of coding is like knowing how to Google things. So that's something I would like to do as well after we're done. Like what things might you search up if you're like, oh, I know how to do this thing, but I don't know how to do that or whatever. Like for instance, here you might know how to read lines in from a text file. Clearly, I did not, but off the top of my head at least. But maybe you don't know how to do this. This was definitely I'll admit I definitely Googled most of this, which isn't a problem, but uh, I'll be forthcoming about that. But yeah, the combinations, like I know math from back in the day. I know combinations and permutations, so I knew that that was somewhere to search, but knowing exactly how to do it and knowing what the syntax is like, especially because so editor wise, I'm using Vim right here. Really big fan of Vim key bindings. The astute people will probably find out that I'm not the most efficient, but I'm definitely more efficient than I was in VS Code. I really like it. I'm a big keyboard driven interface guy, so big Vim guy, but I will also admit that my config for this isn't super well set up, so I don't have like super good like function definitions and stuff, and like virtual environments and all of that. Super cleanly set up here on my work laptop that I'm streaming off of. I'm not a complete noob though, so my normal computer, my Linux machine, for those curious, running Nix OS currently. It used to be a Pop OS guy. Nix is really cool. I'd look into it. But I had all that stuff set up really, really well. But yeah, kind of where we're at right now. Some people might be seeing this and it's like, oh, you're tiling on Mac. So I'm using something called Yabai, Yabai, along with SKHD, which is a like hotkey manager for Mac, which allows you to set up hotkeys to move these windows around. It's a little finicky compared to I used i3 before, so you would think trying to move this window here down would put it underneath here, but clearly it doesn't for some reason. So I'm gonna try to open a new window and see if I can get that working. Little finicky. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I mean, I don't have my key binding set up super well, so I'm not going to be completely keyboard driven. We'll see. So, yeah, I'm ready to get started. Let's maybe look at advent of code. Code.com/2020. At least take a look at the second day. As you see, I did the first one. So something I kind of like and something I don't like about this is there's a lot of story to these problems. Hopefully people can see that there. I'm gonna make it a little bigger, even if I'm working with a pretty big screen, so trying to make sure the people on mobile are able to read. Hopefully it's good right now. I see I got one viewer, so if they can just tell me. Everything's very, very zoomed on my screen, but I just want to make sure everything's legible and readable for everybody. So if Devil Squirrel would like to chime in and tell me if everything's looking big enough, let me know. But your flight departs in a few days from the coastal airport. The easiest way down to the coast from here is via toboggan. Sounds good, thank you. Funny story. I guess we got time. There's a funny story that my parents tell about. I forgot exactly where he was from, but a family friend who has a really thick accent. And they were doing what's it called? Charades one time, and he got toboggan. But he did like a oh, I'm shooting a gun sort of thing, and he was like really pissed because nobody understood what it was, and he was like, oh, it's a tobo gun, not a toboggan. But whatever. Not important to this, but I just thought of it. My chat's my family now. I'm a big Twitch chatter, so I want to make sure I include everybody in on my stories. For my one viewer. Maybe we'll get more, we'll see. Okay, so back to actually working on this. The shopkeeper at the North Pole Toboggan rental shop is having a bad day. Quote, something's wrong with our computers, we can't log in. You ask if you can take a look. Their password database seems to be a little corrupted. Some of the passwords wouldn't have been allowed by the official Toboggan corporate policy that was in effect when they were chosen. To try to debug the problem, they've created a list. Your puzzle input of passwords according to the corrupted database and the corporate policy when the password was set. For example, you have the following list. So 1 through 3 is with policy A, I think, and then the password is A, B, C, D, E. B is C, D, E, F, G, and C is C, 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 C. Wait, what's the 2 through 9 thing? Each line gives the password, policy, and then the password. Oh, so 1 through 3A, 1 through 3B, I think. Oh, it's going to explain. The password policy indicates the lowest and highest number of times a given letter must appear for the password to be valid. For example, 1 through 3A means that the password must contain A at least 1 time and at most 3 times. Okay. In the above example, 2 passwords are valid. The middle password CDEFG is not. It contains no instances of B, but needs at least 1. Okay, I understand now. I'm kind of scared about how you'd solve this, though. Yeah, so the first and third passwords are valid. They contain 1A or 9C, both within the limits of their respective policy. How many passwords are valid? Is it worth starting this? Yeah. Just so I get my boilerplate code. Guess that didn't have to be recursive. So this is from the first one just because I copied it. I'm sure there's a faster way to. Gotta recopy. Copy. Okay, so I can use my boilerplate. I'm not gonna need the combinations. I don't. Whatever. I'll leave them there. So line 4 reads in. In this case, it's not numbers. So find and replace nums to s. Yeah, I'll just do lines for right now. I don't need any of this for right now, at least. So there's 2 things on the lines, right? There's, well, 3 things, 2 major parts, right? There's the policy and then the password itself, right? Delimited by a colon, a space. And then within the policy, there's the number range, and then the letter that applies to, right? So, what would be, I guess the first thing to do is, what I would do is take, my variable names are not going to be super interesting, but I'm going to create a list. I'm going to call that 3 parts. So it's taking each line, parsing it into its 3 parts. And the best way to do this, I'll be very clear, maybe not the best way to do it. Oh, I don't need this either. Do I? Oh wait, no, I do. Yeah. So for line, actually no, I oh no, I can combine. So what I can do is I can take line dot split, and by default, I hope I'm right on this, but by default, line splits by, or yeah, sorry, splits by the default delimiter is space. So yeah, so I'm adding an import, something called pprint, which is pretty print, and it just helps for debugging. It allows me to pretty print things like lists and stuff, and you'll see in a sec why that's important, if you know anything about Python, because this list is not going to be fun to look at. So if I run, oop, I did something. Some terrible debug. Oh, I can't do that. Yeah. So it's pretty printed, so each thing is on its separate line. So as you see, because everything's separated by a space, you get the upper and lower values for the repeated, the letter that it applies to, and then the password itself, and indexes 0, 1, and 2, respectively. So a couple of things that would be useful. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get through this, especially since I'm explaining. But maybe something to do is take out the colons on that middle one, but I don't know how useful that is. Because you can just read the first letter, and that's what's important. It doesn't really matter that you cleaned the data. The other important thing is to split up the values to get the bottom and the top. So, yeah, I'm gonna do this the lazy way, but for line and lines, how would I want to do? Line. Oh, I don't remember if this is passing it by reference. I don't know if this will actually change the value. So let's just, I don't think it does. So appending to each line, really out of Python practice. But what I'm gonna do is append the split of 0 by the delimiter hyphen, right? Because that's what matters. Let's see if this works. I don't really like that. Because you see it's nested lists, right? So we can keep extra data as long as we take that into account. I don't know. In terms, if I was solving this elegantly, I would probably make it so like the 0 and the first index are the 17 and 18, for instance, on this line. Like Q is cleaned up without the colon, and then the Q, 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 whatever, is, what's it called? And no, that just gets left as it is. But because if you're just solving it quickly, these things can get left in because it doesn't really matter, right? So I'm just gonna leave it that way. So we kind of have all the information we need to check that every line is correct. So again, the really lazy way is to just, I guess we're still at O of n time, just 3n at this point, so it's not that big of a deal. At least we're not going n squared. But it's about the speed at which you solve it, not the speed. If we're going for leaderboard points, which I'm not necessarily doing, I want this to be more educational, but whatever. Yeah, I got sidetracked again. So what do we need to do? So if you look at this, for each line, we need to count the number of the letter, like the first the one index. For that letter, check how many there are within the password. So now we're getting into n squared. Well, kind of. It's only the password you're iterating through, but so for letter in line, index 1, cast it to a string, which shouldn't be an issue. I don't know why my editor's not doing it. So just to test out that it's doing what we want it to, oh, yeah, sorry, it's not 1, it's iterating through the password. Wait, is that what I'm trying to do? Yeah, I think I'm trying to iterate through the password. Oops, not terrible. Not relevant. Yeah, so that's iterating through the password. So we want a count variable. It's probably the last thing I'll do. Maybe I'll solve it before tomorrow's or something like that. Maybe we'll solve it after. I think we'll have more than enough to talk about. 4 minutes left. So you do is you'd create a counter. You'd figure out what the letter in question is. String. Line 1, which is like the Q colon, and then you'd want the 0th index of that. Let's see if I did that. Python's pretty easy, but step away for a while. It's break it just so I can see if I got the first one. First one's Q. Okay, cool. That right. So you'd count the number that's in question. Your count's equal to 0, and then you see if the count is between, like for instance, the 9 or the 12. I forget if it was inclusive or exclusive. But that's what you do, and then you outside of this you would have a running like global count. And then that's the solution to the puzzle. How many passwords are valid? So pseudocode wise, that's what you would do. But yeah. So now that I've done 2 problems from last year, I'm feeling decently good. I'll come back and solve this one later, but I'm feeling decently confident that these aren't going to be ridiculous. So let's see. I want to clear. What should I do to prep? Clear this. And anything I want to do here. I can leave that import. Oh, that's what happened before. When I replaced the nums with lines, it made them equal to the same thing. So lines will get changed to input. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for keeping me on track, sir. Yep, 55 seconds left. But I think I'm decently ready to go. I'm sure this isn't going to be relevant, nor is this. And lines. And then we have the input all set. 28 seconds. Woot woot. Enjoy the monkey emoji. I'm always down for suggestions in the chat if we got any Pythonistas here. Or just people that know their stuff more than. Feel free to let me. 5 seconds. I was yelling. Do. So we're on the first layer. You're minding your own business on a ship at sea when the overboard alarm goes off. You rush to see if you can help. Apparently one of the elves tripped. Before you know it, you're inside a submarine. This part doesn't really matter. There's a little meter that indicates the antenna's signal strength by displaying 0 to 50 stars. Your instincts tell you that in order to save Christmas, you'll need to get all fit. Oh, this is... Yeah, collect star, whatever. As the submarine drops below the surface of the ocean, it automatically performs a sonar sweep of the nearby sea floor. On a small screen, the sonar sweep report, your puzzle input, appears. Each line is a measurement of the seafloor depth as the sweep looks further and further away from the submarine. For example, suppose you had the following. So it's going down. This report indicates that scanning outward from the sweep and so on. The first order of business is to figure out how quickly the depth increases, just so you know what you're dealing with. You never know if the keys will get carried away into deeper water by an ocean current or fish or something. To do this, count the number of times a depth measurement increases from the previous measurement. There is no measurement before the first measurement. Not sure why that matters. In the example above, the changes are as follows. So 199, there's no previous. It increases and increases and increases. In this example, there are 7. Oh, okay, so this is pretty straightforward, I think. Yeah, I'm thinking it too easy. So there's our input. And this is probably the only part that we really need. So if we read in our input, it's in lines. So so I'm thinking you do just a for loop that's from there were 2,000 lines, but we'll get it programmatically. So for I in range len, and I think it'd be -1 because I'm gonna start with the 0 to the 1 and then the 1 to the 2 and stuff. So with 2,000 lines, let's say, you have 1 less intermediary measurements. So I believe it'd be the length of line -1. I don't know why it's giving me these. Really sure. So create a count variable, because that's going to be our answer. And then if these errors are really annoying. Am I doing something really wrong? I don't think so. I think my language server screwed up a little bit. But if lines I can't have, because it'll fix it. No. Am I doing something? Oh. Yeah, that's what I need you. So in order for it to increase lines I +1, I need to This is where I wish we had plus plus, but plus equal to 1. I think this is it. I mean, I hope it was that. Let's see, 1145. That would be our answer. Sorry, 1154. Cool. That was the right answer. We got 1 gold star. So cool. Let's see what the lead. I'm interested to see what the leaderboard looks like. I'm confused how this works, to be honest. Oh, I think it says over here. No. Wait, how do I know where I am? I don't understand what's happening here. Wait, both parts of the puzzle? Wait a second. Oh, continue to part 2. Oh, I didn't even realize there was a part 2 on the previous one. I'm really stupid. Okay, part 2. Considering every single measurement isn't as useful as you expected, there's just too much noise in the data. Instead, consider sums of a 3-measurement sliding window, again, considering the above example. So this is, yeah, okay. Start by comparing the first and the second 3-measurement windows. The measurements in the first window are marked A, 190. Their sum is blah, blah, blah. The second window is marked. Its sum is the sum of the measurements of the... So the first comparison increase. The goal is now this in their sliding window increases. In this example, there are 5 sums that are larger than the previous sum. Okay, but I don't think anything really changes here. I believe in order to not get an out of bounds. Oh wait. I could just be really lazy, so I don't have to figure out these numbers and stuff, and have a try except loop. But let's figure this out. I think it's -2 plus line I plus 1 plus I 2, and then it's excuse me. So that's my first crack at it. There's probably something out of range error. Why is there an out of range? Why is there an out? So let's think about this. I think it's got, does it need to be -3 or like -4 or something? I don't believe that the numbers are that close to each other, but we'll see. Oh, cool. Guess and check for the win. I've completed day 1. So now can I see myself on the leaderboard? I don't understand. Got 2 stars. Oh. I'm curious. How did I do? If I click on myself. View your own personal stats. Oh, okay. Oh, I got a score of 0. But I solved this one faster than other people solved it. But I was also talking while doing it. But I'll take that. As long as My feeling is if one day this month I can get better than rank 17, 18, mark my words, chat. I'm gonna do it. I promise. I will say that this is a win, but it could be a win even if I don't do that. So, but hopefully I do. So let's talk a little bit about how exactly this code works. So I'm gonna clean up some stuff, take out what doesn't really matter, add some space. It doesn't. So a little bit explaining about how Vim works. So if you look down at like my commands palette, I know that's what they call it in this code, but I don't know what you call this, like the you execute stuff here. I don't know. So this is using a Linux utility called sed, which is basically like a cleaner, but a lot more confusing way of doing find and replace. So this part doesn't really matter. You do the colon %s. That's just like you're giving it a sed pattern. Sed spelled SED. So first you give it what's called a regular expression. I'm not going to explain exactly how that works right now because it's not going to matter for what I'm doing. But I'm just trying to format a little bit better how this works. So for instance, I want I plus whatever to be I space plus space. So what you would do is, and my editor's nice because it shows you what patterns it matches. Or sorry, so you do I plus and then something. And then after the slash, what you would want is what you want to change it to. So I want it to be I plus space, space plus space. There we go. And then you give it the last slash, and then G just means change it globally. So see, it did what I wanted it to there. So that's a cool way to format your stuff. In terms of making code a little cleaner, what I would maybe do is have lower window equal to this, and then upper window equal to this. And then I can say lower window, upper window. That's a little cleaner. You see exactly what it's doing. But yeah, so exactly how this works. So you open the input .text file, which you saw earlier, that just had our input file, our input values. The important thing about that, if you look at it, is that everything is on a separate line. So it's 1 through 2000, right? So what we want to do is we want to load every single row of that into a list, an array type structure in most other languages. And you do this by doing an open on the file. First argument being the input file, and this is nicely named input.text. And then this is the open mode. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but you can either do read, which is what we need because we're reading from the file. You can do write if you want to add things into the file, and then append, which is writing, but it's not rewriting the file itself. So like I said, all we want is read. We want to open it, put it into the F. Maybe you might call that file. File equals open. And then what you want to do is you want to read all of the lines. Wait, I may have made this more complicated than it needs. Oh, I accidentally made it correctly with my boilerplate. But the only reason, or I'll explain in a second why. So I believe if you were to print input right now, again, not super good at this, but if you were to Why is it? Yeah, so it's all of the numbers with the new line character. So you'd want to like strip out the new lines theoretically, but they don't really matter, and you'll see why in a second. It's already in a list as of line 4, and then what you do is you iterate through and you say for line in input. So you create a list lines, for line in input, you're appending to this lines list the integer cast of each line within lines, so each number. So the reason I accidentally did this correctly is because the first problem from last year's Advent of Code was also numbers, but this would have failed if I did it on the one that I was trying before the challenge started, which was using strings. It would have failed because it's not able. I believe it's smart enough to see a new line and say like, oh, it's not a string or whatever. Just take the integer portion. But I'm pretty sure it would get like really, really confused if you tried to do it with this. Sorry, I'm turning my lights on a little brighter. It's getting close to my bedtime, so smart lights start turning down. So yeah, it casts them all to ints. So as of right now, you actually have. I'm gonna import pretty print. I guess I can do it. Press the wrong key, but from pprint import pprint. The reason you got to do it like this is because otherwise it would be pprint.pprint, which is kind of ugly and repetitive. So lines. Yeah, so there we go. Number at the end of things, but yeah, so all of them are integers as you see here, and they're actually casted as integers. Dynamic languages make it a little harder to know if these are just the string integers. So in order to do the math, it's required for them to be in the integer format, because otherwise it will concatenate them together because it treats them as strings. So the plus will make it, let's say it was just these last three, instead of it being the actual value of 2332 plus 2338 plus 2341, it's going to be all of those numbers put together. So 2332, 2338, 2341, like 12 character string. And then you can't compare it. I believe if you did it via strings, it's going to go like alphabetically. But that's a weird one because, no, I think lexigraphically the value, it would still be able to do less than and equal then correctly. I'm not actually sure, but whatever, not super important. So then we know on the first part, we needed to just compare all the adjacent values and see if with the one with the lesser index is less than the one with the higher index. So what we did was we just compared, it just pretends that lower window for the first one. I'll just do that actually. So the solution to the first one was this. So the reason that this worked is because, okay, this isn't quite it. There we go. I believe that's the solution. And the reason that this worked is because what you're doing is you're looking through I in range, the length of lines. So in our case, there were 2,000 lines. So you want to compare the 0 and the first, or 0 with index and the first index, etc., etc. But if you think about it, I wish I could like draw for you guys, but the reason that it has to be the length of lines minus 1 is because the if you think about the 0 and the first, well, there's two different ways to think about this. One is that you're going to get an array out of bounds. This is the more programmatic one. You're going to get an array out of bounds if you didn't do minus 1, because it would be 0 to 199. So when you do I plus 1, or sorry, 1999, that's going to be the 2000th index, which is actually the 2001st, because it's Python's a zero index language, which means there's not that many values. There's only 2000 values in general. In a more logical way, if you're comparing the 0 and the first, I guess I'm just going to be explaining the same thing again, but a little more English way. But your last comparison is going to be the 2000th value and the 1999th value. And again, I don't know how to explain that actually in better terms. There's only 1999 comparisons, not 2000 in that way. So what you do is you create a count, you iterate through, back to this one. You have a count, you iterate through 1999 times. You look at the 0 and the first and the second, etc. If the lower window is less than the upper window, or the lower bound, lower value, whatever you want to call it, you increment the count. We print the count out at the end. That's what we put into the system. And hopefully that made sense. So this is for the fun part, understanding why it's -3. So we figured that one out because it was just guess and check. I'll be honest there. I need to think about this for a moment as to why this happens. So, I mean, we can probably think about it logically, working backwards from our guess and check. So the length of lines -3, you're going to be looking, that means the top number is going to be 19,999 or whatever, 1999. So -3 is 1996. And then when you add 3 to that, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You want the max number of your like additions, which is the +3 here, to equal 1999. You can apply the same principle here. Length of lines -1, your top value with the range is going to be 1998. So the +1 is equal to 1999. So in every comparison, your highest value is going to include the highest index possible in some way, shape, or form. And I know I'm moving back and forth between like 0 with index and then, or 0 index counting and then like 1 index counting like we think of, or if you look at the number of lines in the text file. But 1 to 2000 is the same as 0 to 1999, right? So in programmatic terms, you want the highest one to be 1999, and it can't be less than that because then you don't count everything. And again, showing a picture with a smaller example would make this make more sense. But I think it works for right now. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to necessarily explain here. But it was a fun first challenge. It wasn't too difficult. Hopefully it was educational for the 1/2 people. Maybe there were more at some point, but that were in chat today. And hopefully it'll be useful for people watching the VODs some other time, or people at my company watching the VODs as well. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to call it a day. Maybe we'll make longer ones later. I think before the problem comes out tomorrow, I'll work through and finish 2 because I'm almost done with that from last year, sorry. And maybe start working on 3. And as I go, gives me more practice. I can explain some more stuff and all that. But a little tired today, and it was a good chance to test out my stream setup. And I'm really hoping the stream setup improves a little bit as the month goes on. Think about maybe getting a ring light. Yeah. Maybe moving my camera up so it's not looking up my nose. We'll see. I get a new monitor tomorrow. Got on those Cyber Monday deals. So gonna get that set up tomorrow. Gonna have a better monitor layout as well, which will be really nice. But yeah, enough about me. I think I'm probably calling it a night for today. Hopefully this was useful, again, for the people watching, the people that will be watching, and a really good test for me. Second time ever that I've streamed, but this one went a lot better than the first one. I'm glad because I actually had one consistent viewer. Whoever Devil Squirrel is, thank you very much for being here. If it's somebody that I know, I would love if you hit me up after this. I'd love to know who was here. But yeah, same time tomorrow, probably starting at 8:30, maybe a little earlier than today, starting around 8:30. Let's what's it called, 8:30 Pacific time. Work through some other problems, talk through them. Not going to rush on those, really talk through them like I did before this. Same general plan. Maybe I'll go longer tomorrow. But yeah, follow, turn on your notifications so you know when I'm going live. I'd also, not my account, but I'd also love those Twitch Prime subs. You have them to give away. Everybody with an Amazon Prime account linked to their Twitch gets a free Prime sub every month. So, especially for this month, because I'll probably be streaming pretty consistently, would be great to have that. But whatever. But yeah, please follow. And hopefully the chat presence grows. I enjoyed the little bit of interaction we got here today. So yeah, that's it. Have a really nice night. Happy holidays, everyone.